Hi Math Nines! We are doing lesson 3.3 today, graphing a linear equation given standard form or x and y intercepts. So we're going to start with the x and y intercepts. This is, remember back at the very beginning where you were given 2 points and you were given like the line goes through, let's say it goes through, 4 and 3, and it goes through 7 and -2. And you would just plot those 2 points on your grid and put a line through them. Well, this is the same, except we're giving you 2 points, but we're not giving you the coordinates in coordinate form. We're telling you that it's the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So the y-intercept we've already looked at when we did the slope-intercept form of the line. The y-intercept is where your graph intercepts the y-axis. So this is the y-axis, and it's going to cross the y-axis at the point -5, which is right here. And it's going to cross the y-axis at the value of 4, x equals 4. So that's right here. And then you just put a line through them. Okay, that is draw line. That's it. That's all you got to do. Okay, you do need to pay attention to which is x and which is y, and whether it's positive or negative, but that's it. Now, it is a line. You're not just putting a point somewhere. You are doing a line. So make sure you're doing that. Make sure you check your answers. Go do the practice work, and then go to the next part of the lesson. Bye. Hi, grade 9s. Today we're going to look at, this is lesson 3.3 of our linear relations unit, graphing a line given ax plus by equals c, which is also called the standard form of the equation. So it looks like capital A x plus capital B y equals c, where a, b, and c are integers, and A is positive. Okay, don't worry about that right now. That's more a grade 10, knowing the definitions of things. It's more a grade 10 level concept. What I want you to be able to do is graph a line when you're given something that looks like this. So before we do that, though, I want to just do a quick review of graphing using the slope-intercept form of a line. So I'm going to do that as an example over on the right here. Okay, so let's say we had an equation of a line that was y equals -1/2 x minus 1. So we could graph this because we know that the -1 here is the y-intercept, and we know that this -1/2 is the slope. So I can graph this by finding my y-intercept of -1, which is this point right here. And from there, I'm going to count out a slope of -1/2. So -1/2, I've got my rise and my run. So my rise is negative. I'm going to go down 1 and over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. I can also do this as 1 over -2 because those values are equivalent. So starting from my intercept, I can go up 1 and back 2, up 1 and back 2, up 1 and back 2. So that gives me a nice place for my line to go. And there's my line. All right, there's my line. Okay, so that's one way the equation of the line can be written. And that's the easiest one to graph because it tells you where to start and it tells you where to go from there. That's the intercept and the slope. But sometimes you see it written like, I'm going to do this number 2 as an example. Okay, so for this one, it's not written in slope-intercept form, so we don't have the slope and the intercept right there for us. So the easiest way to do this is to create a t-chart. So we've got an x and a y. And what I do is I make my x 0 and find out what y is. So I'm looking for the x, no, the y-intercept. When x is 0, I always have to think about this. When x is 0, it's going to intersect with the y-axis, okay? When y is 0, when my y value is 0, it's going to be along here, and it's going to intersect with the x-axis. Okay, so anyway, if x is 0, I have 0 plus 2 times y equals -2. And then I need to solve that equation, but usually it's fairly easy because this just goes away, right? So I'm going to divide that by 2, divide that by 2. I get y equals -1. So when x is 0, y is -1. And then I do it the other way, where I make y 0, and I solve for x. So this then becomes x plus 2 times 0 equals -2. So 2 times 0 is just 0, and I'm left with x equals -2. So when x equals -2, y is 0. So I'm just looking back up here, if x is -2, this becomes -2 plus 2 times 0 is 0, and that equals a -2. Okay, so now I'm going to plot those 2 points. So I've got when x is 0, y is, I'll do this in red. When x is 0, y is -1. When x is -2, y is 0. And then when I've got this, I could draw my line right through that, but if I want to have a good line, a nice clear line that's in the right places, I'm actually going to probably look at that and see if I can count out some slope from that. I can see that it goes up 1 and back 2, up 1 and back 2, up 1 and back 2, or down 1 and over 2, over, down and over. And yes, this is actually the same line as what I did before. I did that intentionally. So that's actually the same line as I had in my example. So those two equations are actually equivalent. This is beyond the scope of grade 9, but I think it helps to just clarify things. So one way of writing this line that I've got in pink here, or purple, it's kind of on the verge between the two, is equivalent. You can write it in either of these two ways. Okay, but for today's lesson, you're going to be given it in standard form, and then you're going to plot it and put the lines through it. All right, that is the end of today's lesson. Go finish the practice. Bye.